All right, well, welcome. I am very, very excited to share with you all today our new capital campaign and to really kind of walk through all of the plans that we've done. I'm going to first talk kind of briefly about how we made it to this point, why we're here, and then walk through the 7 different parts of our renovation. And then after that, we'll talk about the actual capital campaign side of it. And then from there, we'll answer questions. So let's begin with prayer because we need a lot of prayer. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Direct us, O Lord, in all our doings, with thy most gracious favor, and further us with thy continual help, that in all our works begun, continued, and ended in thee, we may glorify thy holy name, and finally by thy mercy obtain everlasting life through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Well, the good news is that we are here for really good reasons. We are here looking at a renovation because we have had extremely consistent growth for a long time. And that growth has come over the last 10 years. But before we actually look at that, I want to answer the question, before we look at all the plans of the renovation, is why a renovation and not a new church? Some offer maybe we should move, or maybe we should build a whole new church on the other side of our property right here for 300 people. There were plans for that at All Saints at one time. But first, I think why a renovation and not a new church is this. We have grown to really love this place. This is where we have raised our families for the last 40 years, where we have worshiped God throughout the seasons. This place really matters to us, even though it has some limitations. Second, we did start to look at what would it take to build a big 300-person church. And then the vestry learned that in order to do that, just to get the parking to fit the code for that sort of size would require just under $500,000. And we thought that might not be the most prudent use of our money if that's what it was going to take. So there's a lot of expense of preparing the property. And finally, but most importantly, is our pastoral tradition, where we really think that our parishes should be no more but around 200 people, so that with 2 full-time clergy and with volunteers, we may actually do the service of the church in our tradition. So that's why we're not considering a new church, we are considering a renovation of this church. But as I said, it's not because of bad things. It's all because of really good things, because of growth. And that growth, I think all of us have felt, like for the last hour at the 10:30 service. So we have felt constrictions of that growth in 4 main areas. The first would be in the parking lot and on the grounds, where transitioning between the 9 and the 10:30 services is quite difficult. We've experienced it here in the nave, which you just experienced. We've experienced it in the undercroft during Agape and during SMAC, right? Where the undercroft and also during coffee hour can get really, really tight. And then finally, in the educational and office spaces, where if you did volunteer at SMAC or you teach in one of the classes for Agape, you know that we are maxed out. All for good reasons, a great problem to have. But this is why we're considering and why we're offering to do a renovation. But this renovation is not just going to be something practical. It's not like just all this like answering practical problems. This is a renovation to really ground this parish in our tradition and the work that we want to do, not for just right now, but for the future. If you look around this room itself, you probably won't notice, because we've seen it so many times, these plaques in the back, the plaques on the pews, a memorial plaque on the pulpit, the lectern, on the hymn board. These are people like Pendleton Hogan, the Sullivan family, who also gave for that window there, Perry Lockoff, a giant in the continuing church, but was here at All Saints. These are the people who 40 years ago sacrificed and gave in order to build this parish for us today. And I guarantee you that they could not dream of what we have today. I want to read a quote to you all from our Rector Emeritus, Father Glenn Spencer, in a piece that I found when I was preparing for this last week. This is from our 30th anniversary, and he wrote a small little piece about our parish. This is what he said. This is at the end of it, so I'm just coming into context. There you have it. Our little church of wood may last longer than we think. And remember the carved graffiti. He had just gotten back from Oxford visiting Hannah while she was studying there a long time ago. Don't forget the carved graffiti in the choir stalls. Don't forget that people put their stamp on holy things in hope that by attaching their name to holiness, they too may last longer than we think. Our parish has many stamps upon it. The founders, most of whom were strong-willed and most of them veterans of World War II, had a vision that involved saving precious things that were being jettisoned, thrown into the ditch and dump of modernity. But like any child, this parish eventually grew into something the parents never imagined. That's what kids do. They keep you up at night, depriving you of needful sleep because they have dreams and visions that you never dreamed of yourself. Oxford celebrated her 30th anniversary 770 years ago. But as the wise woman will tell you, it all started with the first year. And here we are now. We are only 40 years into the life of this parish. But this renovation is not something I want to do just to answer practical issues. I knew that this was going to be a lot of work. I also knew this was going to be a big ask of my parishioners. And I knew that to start my tenure here in doing this, I needed something than just moving walls. I wanted to establish this parish and to build it on the foundation that's already here. But not for right now, but to build our parish for the next century. That's the goal. We are looking not just now, but for the next 100 years of making this parish beautiful and being able to use it for the worship of God. Because our world desperately needs this. That's why we are starting For All the Saints capital campaign. You couldn't really use any other name, could you? That's how it is. And this capital campaign will be a 1.5 million, 3-year campaign. It doesn't actually have to be 3 years. I was thinking about this. It could be just 1 month long. It just depends. But I'll tell you why we're calling it a 3-year campaign. Because, I am still practical on some things. Now, let me introduce you to the plan. And while I'm introducing this, I'm going to have Gary and Father Kyle pass out actual kind of drawings that we have. And these packets, maybe one per family, we can pass those out. Our plan, as you can tell, is not very simple. It actually is 7 different parts. It's a lot of different things. So, first, we are going to construct a balcony for accommodating more parishioners and visitors at the Sunday services right here in the nave. Second, we're going to build additional classroom and office space to provide better educational programs. Third, we're going to enrich the furnishings and the design of this space, the nave and the sanctuary. Fourth, we're going to install a lift and new bathrooms, making the whole church more accommodating. Fifth, we're going to renovate the undercroft again to actually maximize the space. Sixth, we're going to create a patio and improve the grounds for better fellowship and hospitality. And seventh, we're going to expand the parking lot and the driveway to make the church more accessible. What I would like to do next is to actually just run through each of these points and show the renderings and the designs for each of these 7 features. You'll find most of these drawings in your packet, and you can look in there or you can look on here, but the order will be a little bit different in your booklet than it is on mine. So you might just want to watch me for a little bit on the screen, and then you can turn and open your packet and have look for detailed drawings. First, we're going to put a balcony in this space in the nave. Yes, we are going to kick out that back wall, and we're going to throw a big steel beam in between the last 2 windows here. And then on the sides, it will actually be open, and it will then provide for us 35 new seats up in a new balcony. Here you can see when you walk through the entrance in the narthex, you will see a stairwell going up into the balcony. You come up the stairwell into a landing that will go up 4 more steps into the balcony. And that's what the view will look like from the balcony, looking down into the sanctuary. These are renderings done without other things put into these renderings, like our new design of the nave and the sanctuary, so keep that in mind. But this helps you on a very plain level to see what's coming right there. Here are the plans for the balcony. We get 6 full pews and 2 half ones in the back, with a mechanical room. That's where our HVAC system will go and all of that work, because it's a mess up there, and it's going to take a lot of work. But you also will see, because we had to bump out the church here to come to get this staircase up into the balcony, this is where we thought it would be a really good idea to continue the bump out. This footprint is the same exact footprint as the patio that's there right now, and to build a small tower that will give us 2 additional rooms for office and classroom space. This is the proposed addition to the church. And in this addition, we have a new landing here for access. And then on the bottom floor will be a church library, office, and classroom. And on the top will be another office that will then facilitate during agape evenings as an additional classroom. So we gain 2 new rooms for those cases. Here are the architectural renderings of that. And here's a rendering of the downstairs library office space. And then upstairs, another new office. Father Glenn asked for that to be the Rector Emeritus office. I did turn him down on that one. Now, walking back into the narthex, you'll notice a couple changes. The biggest one is that in here, we're going to put in a lift. And the lift will take people from this level downstairs to the undercroft. And we are never going to use the word elevator again, because that pushes the price up another $100,000. So we are only going to use the word lift from now on, because that actually brings this within our budget. You'll notice the cry room is taken out because we have to turn the bathroom here, and that bathroom has to be ADA accessible. The narthex on this hallway stays the same, but there will be now a new staircase to the right going upstairs to that landing and then to the balcony. You also will notice that there is a few changes coming for this space. One of the things that I've always kind of dreamed of, but now want to actually make happen, is to elevate the architecture of this room to actually match the liturgy that we use. And some of the things that we'll be doing is to create a sense of architecture that matches one another, right? First things we'll do is we'll take this chair rail and we'll raise up the chair rail halfway through the windows. And below that chair rail, on the wainscoting, we'll paint that a darker gray. And then the walls and the ceiling become a bright blue-white. This is kind of a red-white, which is hard to brighten up in this room, as you can tell today. And that then will add richer, deeper moldings to create a sense of everything being grounded. Where the ceiling meets the wall, for instance, we'll put in molding there that then will hide lighting to wash the walls and the ceilings up above. We will then also, coming forward, we're going to take these two random doors that are just kind of floating there and build that within a Gothic arch that will match the archway of the windows. On this side, we're going to cut a hole into this wall, which goes into a closet behind here. And we're going to build a shrine into here. And we're going to do a shrine of Our Lady of Walsingham. The choir pews will then change from pews into cathedral chairs so that we can actually have a space for contemplative prayer throughout the week. And a place that will have votive candles in this little shrine here, where you can light a candle, you can sit and contemplate our Lord, and you can pray throughout the week. The choir will stay here, and the organ will also stay here, but instead of the organ that Wallace calls his toaster, we will upgrade that into a new organ, and one that he is finding and helping to design, which is really, really exciting. Now, as we move from the nave, which is the new earth, we then move from the nave into the new heavens, the sanctuary. And the sanctuary, in some ways, will be set off in a different way. We'll take this beam and bring it down with moldings along the side here so that it sections off the sanctuary from the nave. And along that beam, we'll put a crucifix up top, hinting back at the Old English tradition of the rood screen. And then the coloring in here with the chair rail that brings all the focus to the altar, and the tabernacle that will be on the altar will then be a richer colors, and then come into a gold highlighting of IHS or fleur-de-lis along the back wall that then come up being stenciled into a dark blue ceiling in the sanctuary with golden stars to tell us of the heavens, the heavenly throne, because this place is the throne room of heaven. Here is a watercolor rendering of what that can look like when we are done with it. We also will, on the beams, instead of the beams floating into the ceiling, we will put kind of what are called squash blocks to make it look more established, look more like a timber frame building, not something that's just kind of there and we had to fit it in. And we'll put little rosettes or decorations along the beams that then will connect the whole sanctuary and the nave together. In this rendering, there's a couple weird things. In order to show us the shrine and then this side, this wall kind of disappears where it's there. And they also did not put in the choir and the organ so that we could kind of see the design. So it's just a rendering to help us see the main things. You also will notice that our wood floor and carpet goes away. And we will be replacing all of that on this level with a manufactured tile to be the color of slate to bluestone. The design of that floor, which is not in your booklet, but I wanted to show you all this, is 12 by 24 rectangles all throughout the nave, except for the middle aisle, which is what leads us into the throne room. And that middle aisle has 3 large diamonds placed in the middle of it. If you've ever been to the Easter Vigil, you will know immediately those are the places when Father Jean brings the Paschal candle in and he bows and he says, "Behold the light of Christ," and we all respond, right? Those then are built in architecturally throughout the whole year, remembering that through the light of Christ, we enter into the sanctuary. And in the sanctuary, the flooring gets a little bit more elaborate, with square tiles, and then in between each of the squares, you'll have little squares that will be a different color to kind of highlight walking into the Garden of Eden, the throne room of heaven. The pulpit and the lectern will actually be pushed back into the rail to preserve more space up here to fit in more pews, and also to set off the sanctuary separate. The door over here will go away, and there will be no easy exit for us once we enter into the sanctuary. And that's kind of part of it, right? To actually really get a sense of being sectioned off into the throne room of God.
Where will the incense go so the fire alarm doesn't go?
It's a great question. Well, nowadays they have some fancy options for this. We're going to put in a bathroom fan on the corner of that wall that vents out to the outside. And you hang the incense right in front of it, and it draws all the smoke out so that it doesn't get too smoky in here. Good question. Downstairs in the undercroft, what we're going to do, you'll see here, is that the lift comes down from the narthex downstairs into the women's bathroom, which does get a little bit smaller and goes down to 1 toilet instead of 2. This is why we will be putting an additional bathroom in between where my office and the sacristy is now. Then we're going to take the kitchen and put it where the office is now. And where the kitchen is, we're going to put in French doors to exit outside onto a wide patio for a place of fellowship and actually finally connect our outdoor space with the indoor space. On the grounds in the driveway, we're going to first put in 15 additional parking spaces over here in this corner of the parking lot. You can see right there that there's a hill actually. And so by taking away that dirt, we push it into the downhill and create the flat spot that's needed to actually make these 15 spaces without having to pay for additional dump loads, which is a huge expense, or build retaining walls there, which is another expense. We're also hoping to put in a side road right over here, which then would create a one-way driveway and parking lot, which not only makes things a lot safer for the kids, it also then will help with the traffic jam that happens between the 9 and the 10:30. It also then allows us to double park on this part of the driveway, but we're not going to put that on the plans because the county will not like that. Also outside, you will see here some preliminary plans for the patio. We're also hoping to build a retaining wall along the driveway down here by the back steps. And all the dirt that we pull from the patio, we will pull and fill in that to the retaining wall. That will be a beautiful stone wall that disappears into the elevation and create an actual large flat area for us to hang out in. There will be plantings along the driveway to section off that area from the driveway. One, for safety reasons, but also two, to help kind of hedge things in and we have an actual space to be together. Kurt. Are there going to be doors where the old kitchen is to get out to the patio? Yes, there's going to be big French doors to get out to the patio there. That's what's going in down there. That's the goal. All right, that's the plan, and it's a lot of steps. And so in order to get there, I want to share with you kind of how we're going to work towards that goal. We're going to first consider this project in 3 different phases. The first phase is to actually work with the architect and the civil engineers to turn all of these plans into construction documents. During that first phase, we will also begin interviewing general contractors and choosing which general contractor we're going to go with. The second phase will involve the construction on the addition and the interior of the church. This will last around 6 months. We will have to relocate for 2 to 3 months. We got great news last week that we are not only invited, but we are welcomed at the Greencroft, whose space can hold around 200 people for every Sunday service. That is incredible. And they were super happy to help have us there. And when we asked how much they charged, they said, $250 a week, which is incredible. So now not only do we have a place to meet, it happens to be our next door neighbor, and they can hold enough people, maybe where we can even go down to 1 service during that time. And they want everyone to know that you should stay and have lunch at their place afterwards. As phase 2 is finishing up, we will begin phase 3, which is the parking lot, patio, and landscaping work. And if we can do it this way, which is really great, this means that we can actually start the interior work in the addition quite quickly, depending on how funds are raised. Let me give you, though, a sense of where this money is going. And the phases of the project helped us with the financing, allows us to start quickly if we have the sufficient funds, especially because phase 3 will take a full year permitting process with the county. And so we can start phase 2 while that permitting process is happening. And an aggressive timeline could mean that we could break ground after Easter this year, aggressive timeline. We could do all the construction inside in the addition during the summer when things at church are a little bit calmer and people are traveling, and we could be back in the church for Christmas season. That depends on a couple of things, and I'll tell you in just a second. Phase 1 is going to take us about $100,000, and we, as the vestry, have decided early on that we are not going to start a phase without sufficient funds in the bank. And this phase demands that we have all those funds in the bank before we say go. We would like to say go in November, but that just depends on how the giving goes. Phase 2 is our biggest phase, and this one's going to take around $800,000. Phase 3 will take the additional $600,000, and this is why we come up with that term of $1.5 million. Now, in an overview of giving, there are many, many, many different ways that this is going to happen. I'm going to give you an outline of what could happen, even though it's going to happen in probably radically different ways than I even think right now. But what it helped me, when I heard that number 1.5 million, I thought, how are we going to do that? What's the breakdown of something like that? And so sketching it out in this way helped me understand that, oh, we're doing this. This is actually really possible for our parish. So here is, in general, how I think about a fundraising capital campaign for a project like this. You first start with the lead gifts, which are between $100,000 and $500,000. We are going to need 2 to 4 of those. Some big, large gifts. Already, I have only actually received only one pledge. And that pledge was $100,000. And so already we have taken care of one of the major lead gifts. That totaling should be around $700,000 for us in 2 to 4 gifts. The next level is major gifts between $50,000 and that $100,000. And we're going to need 8 to 10 of those, totaling around $450,000. You see, I'm just kind of breaking this down, right, in how this actually can build up into 1.5 million. The mid-level will be between $20,000 and $50,000, and that we're going to need 10 to 15 of those. And that will total around $300,000. And then the foundational gifts between $1,000 and $20,000 will be between 5 and 10 gifts, totaling $50,000. And yes, we do accept corporate sponsorships, so D&T Detailing is hopefully going to offer one of the lead gifts through their business. The issue here, though, too, is obviously that what we're asking for is above and beyond our tithes that we're already giving. And this is where I know this is a big ask for my parish. Everyone has to continue giving what we already give. We have budgeted next year already with all that in plan. The vestry met yesterday, and we created that budget and went through, and we did not expand it huge because we knew we're also asking for this. And this is a big ask. This is above and beyond our tithes that we have to keep giving. But these are the ways that we're going to get there. Now, like I started with, looking around the room with all these names and memorials, one of the things I actually love is actually creating a way of naming opportunities, of thinking what can gifts like this do? And how can we set this up with the families and the names that we have here to show people 100 years from now who gave this church to the next generation? And so some of the naming opportunities for the lead gifts would be the balcony, which is going to be about $200,000. The church library, another $200,000. The rector's office, a $200,000 gift. And the church kitchen, which could be even more than that. Major gifts, thinking of how we're going to get a new organ, a lift, cathedral chairs for the shrine, the nave floor, the balcony pews. The mid-level gifts of the shrine statue, the rood screen, the stations of the cross, votive candle stands, sanctuary benches, naming of a pew. And then finally, in the foundational gifts, on the patio, we'll have bricks that everyone who gives can have their name engraved onto a brick to show how, even though Christ is the cornerstone, we are all the bricks in the city of God. Dedication of a tree, the pulpit, lectern, prayer books, hymnals. These are the ways I want you to start thinking of when you give a gift. How do you actually memorialize it, dedicate it after your family or people who you care about? These are wonderful opportunities. And when you go to cathedrals in Europe, you'll see all these names throughout the cathedral, hundreds and hundreds of years before, who have given these gifts in order to establish the church then today. This prayer, Father Kyle and I have chosen to be a prayer for this, for all the saints capital campaign, a prayer for guidance, because we need to remember that it is only through the work of God that we can do this work. That also, in every part of this way, we need to offer this up to God, because this is going to be a lot of work on behalf of all of us. Some people of the parish have already put in extraordinary parts of work. Whitney really helped design that whole addition, and the undercroft, and the balcony. Rebecca Lemert designed all of the pledge cards for this week that you'll have in your packet. The vestry has put in hours upon hours helping guide the architects and meetings to this point so I could present it to you. Father Kyle has given me so much advice and guidance throughout this process as well. But now it's time for us to kind of hand it over to the whole parish and to ask you all, what can we do? What can we support? I actually don't have any fear. I think we can raise $1.5 million in its entirety, but we need to see. And so we've put pledge cards into these packets for you to fill out, or you can always come to me and meet with me to talk about it as well. Kurt Johnson, our treasurer, has many different ways for you to give. We're also working on online giving, the normal check giving. You can also now give in stock form and also with wills and estates as well. All of those are options to give now to our parish through the work of Kurt. So, let us pray. Direct us, O Lord, in all our doings with thy most gracious favor, and further us with thy continual help, that in all our works begun, continued, and ended in thee, we may glorify thy holy name, and finally, by thy mercy, obtain everlasting life through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Well, I know that there's probably a lot of questions in your head, from detailed things to more general questions. Some of the details I might not be able to answer right now. First, because part of those plans are still in flux. But others I might be able to answer, or some of the vestry might. But we could also meet and talk about more of the detailed things in the future. Are there any other questions that people would like to ask now? Yes? What's happening to the cry room? The cry room is actually going away. There will be no cry room. A couple of things that we're going to do to help with that is that we're going to put glass in the doors to the narthex and actually close those more often if people do want to be in the narthex and still watch, and that will help. And there'll be a window next to the doors as well. Downstairs, we're actually going to finally put in a sound system so that people who are in the nursery and in the classroom next to it, which is becoming more of like if a mom needs a nurse and has a toddler in tow, we'll have a sound system in there too so that it actually can listen to the Mass. Tyler.
It sounds like we're not doing any financing, is that correct?
Are we doing financing or not? That's a good question. The church is prepared to do financing, but I don't want to. I would much rather do this from our own donations. What we'll probably have to do is what's called bridge financing. Knowing that most of us cannot write a large check all in once, we have created this campaign to be a 3-year campaign. So that if maybe you could find a way to give $5,000 in a year, if you can commit to do that 3 years in a row, then that's turning a $5,000 donation into a $15,000 donation. And that is what's going to make this work. And so during those time frame of that 3-year period, we are prepared and already talking with banks on how to do a bridge financing. And we could finance part of it as well if we need to. But what I want to try to do is actually not finance. I want to raise this all in-house. Diane.
Because there's a bottleneck between the 9 o'clock service and 10:30, is there any plans to expand the entrance way or the step area?
Like right there? So Diana's asking, because there's a bottleneck in between the services, is there a plan to expand the front steps? No, there is not. However, the bump out will create another entrance that's actually much more kind of accessible than this side entrance is right now. That could help. Also, with this addition, there's going to be this church kind of library and office that might be a good place to stage as a waiting room while people actually exit the 9 o'clock service. But no, there's no plans to actually build out the front steps. Joni?
So will the whole facility now, will it be handicap accessible, like including the bathroom?
Great question. Yes, the plan is for the whole facility to be, well, not the whole, most of the facility to be handicapped accessible. There will be the old male bathroom, men's bathroom downstairs that is not up to current ADA standards, and we don't have to touch that right now. But the new bathroom up here and the new bathroom over here, all on one level, will be ADA accessible. And we're also going to build in a wheelchair actual spot by a pew, which we haven't had in the past. Kind of right here, but then it's in the way of everyone passing through. So we'll actually have a set place for a wheelchair to actually be part of the service, and the bathrooms will be fully accessible. And then we'll have a lift as well. Jack. Good question. Jack's asking, are the pews going to be replaced or refinished? The goal at this point is to keep the pews, but to have them refinished during the time when the floor is being done. And that refinishing will also involve the altar rail, and we'll probably actually do some work on the altar as well. The top needs to be refinished, and we'll put an altar stone into the altar at that time too. Judah.
Are we going to keep the old doors or get new doors?
On the front, Judah's asking, are we going to replace the front new doors? For right now, that's not part of the plans. There is a crack in them. We might need to at some point, but that's going to probably come later. Aylin. Yeah, Aylen's asking a really good question. If we put the pulpit and the lectern into the communion rail, won't that make communion take a lot longer because you're losing an actual spot at the rail? A couple things on that. The pulpit will be cut down, and we'll actually hopefully use the same pulpit, but then redo it and then put it into the corner. Right now, most people actually do not go into that spot behind the pulpit because they can't see how much room's there. So already, we actually kind of already are in a spot where people don't use the whole rail. What will take longer is that if we're going to get to services with a full balcony, we're going to have more people. And the choir is fully prepared to lead 3 communion hymns instead of 2. Abraham. Great question, Abraham. How long will the whole process take? Well, the construction inside and outside will be about 6 months, within another 3 months for the grounds construction after that. And as we all know, and especially if you go to Regents, I'm telling you dates that are not real. But those are the dates. Tyler knows this as well. Yeah. So this is kind of hypothetical stuff. For a general contractor, though, our project in here and the addition is actually not very complicated. It is not large. The harder things will be for our contractor to find craftsmen to do the work that we need done in here to really lift this space and elevate this space into that goal that I'm hoping for. That will be a little bit harder, and that might be something that over the years we find and do that in a slower way, but I think we can do that all together. Tyler? We will be back in the church with this finished while the outdoor work starts, if we can start this sooner rather than later. The county requires on the outside work a major site plan, which takes about 12 months. And so if we can start doing all these steps in the next few months, then we can do the interior work while they might overlap, though, if it's taking us a little bit to raise funds, feel like we are being prudent with our money. That might take longer, and then we'll be doing all of it together. It really just depends. Carol.
Yes, can you address the slipperiness of the new hard floors with inclement weather occurs, vegetables?
Yeah, Carol White is asking if I could address if we're going to move to tile, what about the slipperiness of the floor? Actually, today there are codes that require a certain level of friction for any tile floor that's put down in any new building. And so there are actual friction levels that you have to occur to, and we will obey all of those laws, and we will hopefully go even above that to actually create kind of a rougher manufactured tile. But we have to find that, and I don't know what that is yet. We can still keep the rug in the narthex, and there'll still be a rug in the sanctuary as well. Yep. Joe, yeah.
The arch doorway, the double door over there, is that going to be, because there's a closet right there, is that just going to be expanded closet, or is that the entrance to like your bell tower?
So those doors stay the exact same. There's just going to be an archway now to actually connect it and make it cohesive to the architecture of the church. The hymn board will actually move on to Ken's choir closet there, and that will be kind of more of a hidden door at that point, and we're going to give Ken a secret CIA key in order to get that open there, which he already has, and it will be really neat, and that's where the hymn board will probably go. Ross?
I don't think I saw a number on the new organ, and my question is, does this remain like an electrical organ, and is it a good solution, and is there the option if there was a major donation to get a really nice organ that would have the
Pipes. Yeah, it's a really good question. If you find someone for me who really wants to give that, that is always an option. However, Wallace and I talked about this at length, for a long time over a period of a couple of months. And Wallace's advice in the end was, if we were to build a new nave, then we would actually maybe commit to a real organ. Because the whole space has to be designed around a real organ. And you really can't do it piecemeal at this fact, right? And so what Wallace and I settled on was, he said, we just need to do a nice electric organ. Could we do a real organ here? Yes and no, but it really actually might not really do a real organ justice. And so we're gonna do an electric organ, but actually a really nice one. The cost of that will probably be between $100,000 and $120,000. Half of that is the organ and the council, and the other half is the speakers. Adam.
Does the renovation include any updates to windows?
No, not right now. And I believe that if Whitney's in here, she could actually answer that, and I don't think she is right now. But no, there's no renovation of windows right now. But we can always receive a special gift above and beyond to put in new windows. I think so.
It seems to me we'll be at Greencroft for a year.
Here, actually, so the work in here, the disruptive work of putting the new floor, the steel beam, and the balcony, really actually the contractor we talked to, Abrahams, who built this addition for us, they actually really did not think it's going to be more than 3 months. To actually do the work inside that is disruptive, they don't think it will be more than 3 months. And if we can hand over the building to them fully, then it's even quicker. Yeah. But you're right. We might be there a year. Who knows?
What does this mean for the icon that we were going to, like, are we going to still get the icon that you had talked about?
Thank you. Yeah, actually, great question. I meant to say that. We are still getting 4 new icons, and there are 2 coming this November. Next month, by December, I should, Lord willing, be going up to Pennsylvania and picking those 2 up. So we'll get 2 now, and then we'll get another 2 once. The board maker has been the delay here, the guy making the boards out in Arizona. And so hopefully after that, it'll be another, whenever he's sending 2 more boards to our iconographers, then they'll do again. It takes them only about 2 to 3 months to do them. So we will be receiving St. Michael the Archangel and St. Elizabeth the New Martyr by by December, which is super exciting. And so those will go up as well in the sanctuary.
When we switch the kitchen to where like the nursery is, right? Or like it's in the office.
Where the
nursery
office
still
is.
the same.
Yep, the nursery is the same, but we will take the door to the nursery and move it down towards that HVAC closet. It'll be closer down that way to separate out the kitchen and the entrance to the nursery. Yes, Mark.
Is 2025 year one on the 3-year campaign, or is it 36 months or 2026?
That's a great question. It could be. Yeah, no, what I'm figuring now is that from now, so 2025 is the first year. And I feel like we're giving sufficient time for those who can do year-end giving, where that really matters, that this is the first year of that giving. But Kurt, as the treasurer, is that what you had in mind as well? The question was, when are we starting this 3-year campaign? Are we doing that 2025?
We can definitely accept tax deductible gifts at any point in time you want to make them with any 3 years you want to set up. So if we want to get towards the capitalist campaign today, give count. I don't know, we haven't really talked about when is the official start of the 3 years, but
Yeah.
but I would say that's more of a function of how much money we raise off the bat, like how long that campaign is.
What about again?
What will it begin?
25, 26, 27, or January 28th?
Yeah, I think in our...
You can completely disconnect the 3 years for the capital campaign from tax and gift rules. Like when it starts and when it ends, it won't matter for your taxes. In my mind, today is the kickoff. So
Yep.
it'll be 36 months from today.
Yeah.
But
That's how we're thinking about it, though we also know like tax-wise and how people give, it might then bleed into 2028 in that. And I've already had one person talk to me about, well, we can give this, but that would be over 5 years rather than 3 years. And we can talk about that, even though for us financing this, the 3-year, of course, is going to be more helpful to actually do this bridge financing.
yeah, you can make a pledge, but you can't deduct a gift unless it's completed. So you can pledge $600,000 over 3 years, but you can only deduct what
Yeah.
you gave in that tax.
Yeah, you can only deduct after you've actually given. You also will see on the pledge cards, and if I may just do this here, that there's kind of a blanks for you to kind of create that of what you actually would need to do, of how much you can pledge and over how much time that's going to be. And you can see that on there. Or there's a box for one-time payment. And obviously this is just to give you a sense of how to kind of think through this cycle. But on that, it will give you a little bit of a sense, but please feel free to email me and come and see me to talk about that if you need anything or any help on how to do it.
Is the congregation going to have a vote on this?
Bob was asking, does the congregation have a vote on this to plan? And no, we don't. The vestry has decided this is what we're going to do at my leadership, and this is what we are going to do. There are still, we received some great comments from a couple of people on, what about these windows? Don't those look weird out there? And it's like, oh yeah, we can still take ideas in, especially if you see something in design that's like, oh, if you did this, that would really help. We can still take those in, but we're not voting on this. This is what the vestry has decided to do for the future. Any other questions? Well, let's end there for today. I would love for everyone to take home these booklets, the pledge cards, pray about how you can support this project, and in the next few weeks, you can reach out to me and have a meeting or talk, or any of the vestry or Father Kyle, and then on All Saints Day, at the parish meeting, which is at the end of November, we can kind of readdress where we're at as a parish, and then we'll give you the update then. Thank you all very much.